Low. Víctor de Monte.
L-O-U-I.
Ajá. Louis.
Víctor.
Víctor de Broglie.
Víctor de Broglie.
Welcome to our first webinar from Richmond, dear teachers. Today, we are extremely grateful for having you here, and we are excited to share the following topic: content and language integrated learning. As our speaker in this session, we are fortunate to be joined by Mr. David Guarderas, National Richmond Coordinator. Mr. Guarderas has over 12 years of experience in the EFL and ESL field. He is TKT certified in 3 different modules and has a C2 proficiency certification from Cambridge Language Assessment, as well as extensive experience in the classroom and in exam preparation such as TOEFL, IELTS, Cambridge CAE, FCE, and PET. Good afternoon, Mr. Guarderas.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Ms. Catherine. Now let's get started. My name is David Guarderas, as was mentioned before. Today we're going to speak about language and content and language integrated learning, or CLIL, C-L-I-L. Okay, so let's get right into it. We're going to do this webinar as a conversation. So what I would like you guys to do in as much as possible, I would like you to participate through our chat. We're going to make our attendance form available through the chat in just a few minutes. We will let you know as soon as it is ready. And let's get started. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to share the presentation that we're going to use. And here we go. Let's get started. The name of the topic is Content and Language Integrated Learning. Here we go. There it is. So, as many of you teachers know, the type of work that we do in the EFL classroom is a type of instruction that is interdisciplinary, and it delves into topics that go outside of the realm of linguistics, right? So content and language integrated learning in the EFL classroom. We're going to speak about this topic and how we can combine it and implement it with project-based learning. This is actually, CLIL is going to be our umbrella, and our vehicle within this umbrella is going to be project-based learning. Okay, so what is CLIL and why must we know about it? Content and language integrated learning. Now I have a question here on my PPT. The question is, what is CLIL and why must we know about it? What I would like is for the teachers that are participating to share in the chat in Zoom, via Zoom, what if they know anything about this methodology, or if they have heard about this methodology before. Have any of you heard or read about this methodology in the past? Can you share through the chat with me if you have? Miss Tatiana Merchan is saying good afternoon. She says integrated learning. Okay. So let me know if you have heard or if you have read anything about this methodological approach before. Okay. All right, let's move on. So what is CLIL and why must we know about it? It is believed that language can help global growth since the world has become interconnected through the exchange of information and knowledge. This is a quote from an educational investigator, Meshito Marsh and Friggles. So what is the meaning of this term? The meaning of this term, as you can see it here, content and language integrated learning, the meaning of this, it refers to how the instruction of English as a foreign language or a second language, how we are able to review vocabulary and review topics of different disciplines or different subjects within the EFL classroom. And also, it also goes into the area where an EFL or an ESL institution provides students with science classes, history classes, and classes in different subjects, but in the English language, right? It also refers to EFL or ESL classes where we have to deal with vocabulary that is interdisciplinary, meaning vocabulary from geometry. In certain units, we have to review vocabulary from biology. When we have to talk about the names of animals of different species, then we have to, then that means that we have to go into the field of biology, science, or natural science. Okay, so as you guys can see here in my next slide, we have an image of an EFL teacher, correct? Now this EFL teacher that we have here, as you can see in the image, this is an EFL teacher who is new to CLIL. He's new to content and language integrated learning, correct? Now, what I would like you guys to tell me, I'm going to read the question. The question here is, can any teacher follow the CLIL methodology? And what I would like you guys to do is I would like you to tell me, is this possible? Can any teacher really follow the CLIL methodology? Now, when we talk about any teacher in this case, we're talking about any EFL or ESL teacher. Is it possible? Please let me know in the comments if you think it might be possible for any EFL or ESL teacher to follow this CLIL methodology according to what I've told you so far. Let's see if there are any comments yet. Oh, okay, no comments yet. That's fine. So as you can see here in the image, what can we see here in the image? We can see that the teacher is trying to put together the concept of CLIL in order to implement it into the classroom. So what is he trying to do? He's trying to put together the different pieces of the CLIL methodology. For example, language, content, culture, cognition, scaffolding. This is actually a piece in this image that is missing, right? A part of the word that is missing, that's scaffolding. And we also have the word Vygotsky here. Now, if any of you remember Vygotsky, I'm going to type it right here. Vygotsky, here we go. Well, Vygotsky is an educational investigator, a researcher, an educational researcher that we have probably read about in university. Most of us who have followed university majors that have to do with education have read at some point about Vygotsky, right? And the other term that is missing in this puzzle, or that is partially in this puzzle, sorry, is scaffolding. I'm going to type that. Okay, here we go, scaffolding. And I would like you guys in the comments to let me know if you have heard or if you have ever seen this term before. I think I mistyped it. Here we go, scaffolding. Here we go. There it is, scaffolding. Has anybody heard or seen this this term before within EFL? What does this mean in the EFL classroom? We know what it means in real life in English, right? Well, what it means in real life in English is supporting a structure, correct? That's what it's used for. But what is it used for in the EFL classroom? I don't know if anyone has any suggestions of what this might be used for. You're free to participate. He says, Miss Tatiana Merchant says, if he or she is well prepared. Okay, I read your message, Miss Tatiana Merchan, but I would like to know a little more about your comment. What are you referring to with if he or she is well prepared? You're talking about scaffolding? Is that what you're talking about? Okay, I think you're probably talking about that. So I'm going to explain what scaffolding means so I can make it clear for everyone. Okay, so scaffolding is basically what we do in our warm-up stage of the class. Scaffolding is basically taking a content that we're going to teach and making sure that the student remembers previous knowledge that is going to help them build the knowledge that we're going to review in a lesson. For example, I'm going to give you a very clear example right here with a present progressive. Okay, this is an example of scaffolding. I'm going to write on the screen a structure with the present progressive. Okay, for example, he is playing soccer with us. He's playing soccer with us. Okay, now teachers, I would like you to tell me, please, in the chat room, what part of this structure is our student what part of this structure are our students supposed to know prior to our class? In order for me not to take double the time explaining all the details from this structure, what do my students need to know prior to this? So I'm teaching the present progressive, right? And I'm teaching a structure like this. So they need to know, I see messages here. Okay, they need to know ahead of time pronouns. They need to know the meaning of certain verbs. They need to know at least a few nouns, correct? And they need to know at least the difference between the object personal pronouns and the subject personal pronouns, right? The subject, which is this one, and the object, which is the one at the end, right? So these are the things that they should know ahead of time before we actually teach the present progressive. This allows me to have a present progressive lesson and allows me to have this lesson so that it doesn't take me 2 hours or 3 hours, but it takes me the allowed 40 or 45 minutes that I have assigned for this topic, correct? Okay, so that is the meaning of scaffolding. Okay, so now let's see. In this image that you see in front of you, we can see that it shows us why CLIL might be difficult for an EFL or ESL teacher. Why might it be difficult? It might be difficult if the teacher does not know the content that they're going to teach, or if the teacher has language difficulty. But what do I mean by language difficulty? Well, not all EFL teachers are C2 speakers or native speakers, right? That's normal. That is expected. In fact, in Latin America, most EFL teachers probably reach a B2 proficiency, right? Some of them don't, some of them do, but it is not an ideal for them to be a native speaker or a C2 proficiency, or to have a C2 proficiency. That is not the objective. What we're referring to when we say know the language is for the teacher to have enough language proficiency to teach the topics that they're supposed to teach. For example, if a teacher is supposed to teach a course that has contents that pertain to the B1 proficiency level, should that teacher have a B1, or should he or she have a B2? What do you think? Can you let me know in the comments? Okay, Ms. Maria Vega, she made a comment about previous knowledge about present continuous. Yes. Okay, good. That refers to scaffolding. Very good. Excellent. Now, Ms. Gabby is telling me that if a teacher is going to teach a course that has B1 content, they should have a B2. Correct. Very good, Ms. Gabby. Exactly. If a teacher is going to teach a course that has B1 content, they should have at least a B2 proficiency, because that is the most optimal thing. And that's what know the language refers to. So if the teacher knows the language and if the teacher knows the content, then CLIL becomes an easy task, or it becomes an easier objective, right? So CLIL becomes difficult if the teacher does not know the language, or if the teacher does not know the content, right? So when we mention that, when we mention know the content, we're referring to the teacher fulfilling his obligations by reviewing the content before the actual lesson or the actual class. That is very, very important. And that is actually a part of the CLIL methodology, the content and language integrated learning. Now let's move on to the next part. Okay, so in the next part, we're going to look at the core features of the CLIL methodology. So the first core feature of the CLIL methodology is multiple focuses. What does that mean? Well, it means exactly what I explained at the beginning. So CLIL or content and language integrated learning deals with different disciplines or different subjects within the language acquisition process, right? So we're going to deal with reading, math, life skills, creativity, social studies, science, problem solving, foreign languages or foreign language, and all of the other ones that you see here. You can see writing as well, making friends, which is social skills, creative arts, and also motor skills. Now, when this refers to fine and gross motor skills, okay? So that's the first core feature of the CLIL methodology. So one of the core features of the first core feature of the CLIL methodology is that it focuses on it has multiple focuses, sorry. And so it deals with subjects from different disciplines. Okay, let's move on. Alrighty, so another core feature of the CLIL methodology is providing a safe and enriching learning environment. Now, in this point, teachers, I would like you to tell me in the comments your ideas about how we can provide a safe and enriching learning environment, please. I don't know if you can give me any suggestions, Ms. Gabi or Ms. Maria or Ms. Tatiana. I see that you have participated, and I thank you so much for participating in the chat and making this webinar as interactive as possible. I don't know if anyone has any suggestion. Okay, Luli Alaba says, a bullying-free environment. Very good, Ms. Luli. Thank you so much. Yes, that is one way in which we can provide a safe and enriching learning environment. And actually, what I'm going to do to make this webinar as interactive as possible is I'm going to read an example of how we can make the CLIL classroom a safe and enriching learning environment. And I would like you to tell me what you understand from what I'm going to read, or tell me your opinion of the example that I'm going to give you, okay? I have another comment here. It says, Ms. Tatiana Merchan, Licenciada Tatiana Merchan says, making sure that we learn from mistakes and that it doesn't matter making them. Very good, very good. That's a good way of providing students with a safe learning environment. That's okay, miss. She says, sorry matter. making sure that we learn from mistakes. Very good, very good. That's okay, Miss. I understood. Excellent. Thank you for your participation. Okay, now let's see. The first example that I'm going to give you, please listen carefully to what I'm going to say. So, community build all year long. Routinely includes strategies and activities in your lessons, such as let me start again. Community build all year long. Routinely includes strategies and activities in your lessons that allow students to express their thoughts and ideas, build relationships, and practice collaboration. This will help grow and maintain a feeling of emotional safety in your classroom. Let me repeat it one more time. Community build all year long. Routinely include strategies and activities in your lessons, such as save the last word. Routinely include strategies and activities in your lessons that allow students to express their thoughts and ideas, build relationships, and practice collaboration. This will help grow and maintain a feeling of emotional safety in your classroom. Okay, so now I just gave you an example. If you can please in the chat, let me know what you think of this example, or if you understood the meaning of what I just read. Let's see if there are any responses. So we have 24 participants. Very good. Okay. Do we have any responses? Nope, not yet. Okay. So I'm going to give you another example of how we can provide a safe and enriching learning environment. Okay, very good. Now, Miss Tatiana Merchan is telling us, it is important to let them feel free to express themselves and participate. Very good. That is the point of yes, very good. That is the point of the first example that I'm reading. Now I'm going to give you another example, and I would like you to participate if you can. Okay, we're going to allow you, because of the amount of people we have participating here, we're going to allow you to participate with your microphone if you want to, just for just during this round. Okay, so the next one, number 2, post-student work. When displays of essays, poems, projects, and exams dominate the walls, there is student ownership of the room. When they look around and see their own writing and thinking, they certainly experience a higher level of comfort than if they see store-bought posters that said if informational if informational posters are needed, ask your students to create them. I'm going to read it one more time. Sorry about my mistakes. The next one. I'm going to read it again. Post students' work. When displays of essays, poems, projects, and exams dominate the walls, there is student ownership of the room. If they look around the room and they see their own writing and thinking, they certainly experience a higher level of comfort than if they see store-bought posters. That said, if informational posters are needed, ask your students to create them. Okay, now I would like you to tell me, you can tell me verbally, you can open your mic and let me know what your opinion of this is, or if you understood the message of my last example. Ms. Maria Vega says it is important for the cooperation. Very good. Yes, this is an example that talks about how cooperation is important. And I want you to tell me, if you can, in the comments, or maybe by making a verbal comment with by opening up your microphone, why is collaboration important? Collaboration is important because it is one of the 21st century skills that our students should be developing, right? Along with critical thinking, collaboration, technology proficiency, and many others. Okay, All right, let's move on. The next example of how to provide a safe and enriching learning environment is have example number 3, sorry. Have non-negotiables. Along with classroom rules and procedures, students must know the non-negotiables right out of the gate. My biggest non-negotiable is no name calling. This results in an immediate consequence for the student in question. Tackle name calling head on, or else kids won't feel safe to be themselves, let alone learn. Okay, so let's hear it again. Have non-negotiables. Along with classroom rules and procedures, along with classroom rules and procedures, students must know non-negotiables right out of the gate. My biggest non-negotiable is no name calling. This results in an immediate consequence. Tackle name calling head on, or else kids won't feel safe to be themselves, let alone learn. Okay, please let me know what you understood from the example that I just gave you, or what you interpret from this example. Any comments? Let me see. Are there any comments? I guess not. Then it is pretty clear, right? These are suggestions on how we are able, on how we would be able to provide a safe and enriching learning environment. Okay, teachers, let's move on. So another core feature of the CLIL methodology is authenticity. Now, what I'm showing you here in the image gives us a pretty good example of authenticity. But now I'm going to ask you guys, why is authenticity important in the EFL or ESL classroom? Why is it important? Authenticity is important because we do not just teach vocabulary, words, or grammar. Besides grammar and besides vocabulary, we also teach the culture that comes along with that language. So we teach the cultural values and the traditions that come along with the language that we're teaching, meaning the different traditions from the different countries where the language is spoken, correct? Okay, so why is authenticity important, and why is the image that we have in front of us, why does it show us authenticity in the EFL classroom? Please, I would like you to look at the image and I would like you to tell me why it shows us authenticity in our EFL classroom. The example here says 10 Thanksgiving craft ideas for middle school students. And what we have here is a craft activity with a pie, where the student is saying what he or she is thankful for, right? So the student is thankful for their toys, correct? And we have another craft idea here where another project where the student made a small turkey, or what is supposed to be a turkey, and each leaf of the turkey has something that the student is grateful for. For example, in this case, ice cream, family, friends, cream soda, Legos, and it says screens here. Well, I think that's what it says. But anyway, why does this provide the EFL classroom with authenticity? I don't know if you can tell me in the comment section. Because they can pursue their talents. Very good, Miss Tatiana, excellent. Because they can pursue their talents. Also, because it allows me to teach my students about the traditions from the countries where English is a native language. And it also allows me to show my students the differences between their traditions and our local traditions, right? So focus the audience. Cultural awareness. Very good, Mr. Anderson. Thank you so much. Yes, exactly. So it allows me to see, it allows me in the classroom to be able to display the differences between the outside culture and the local culture. And it also brings authenticity because I'm teaching English. And this activity that we have here is a clear example of a cultural tradition from English speaking countries, right? Very good. Let's move on to the next one. Okay, so here we go. Okay, so another core feature of the CLIL methodology is active learning. Okay, so in this topic regarding active learning, some of the characteristics of active learning that our students should be involved with when they do this process is they need to imagine, they need to explore, yeah, they need to learn, they need to think, and they need to know, right? So they need to do all of these things, or all of these characteristics are characteristics of active learning. This is what should be happening when our students are doing active learning. So this is very different from the type of traditional classroom that we're used to, where the teacher would stand up in front of the class and just speak, and the students would have to listen. There wasn't a chance to speak. There wasn't a chance to interact with the teacher or to ask questions, right? That's a kind of a passive type of learning. So what we're supposed to be doing is active learning. And within this active learning, I have the category think. But how is a 21st century student supposed to think? In what way? I don't know if you can tell me in the comment section, or maybe you can open up your mic and you can participate if you like. How is the student supposed to think in the 21st century? There's a specific type of thinking that the student should be doing. Yes, Miss Lucia, very good. Mr. Anderson, very good. Critical thinking. Lucia Gavilanes, thank you so much for your participation. Mr. Anderson Linares, thank you. Critical thinking, it is very important. It is crucial for the 21st century learner, and also in the process of active learning. Very good, teachers. Okay, now let's move on to the next one. Now, another pillar of CLIL is scaffolding. And this is something I mentioned in the first part. Now, scaffolding, as I mentioned before, scaffolding is the process in which we support our learning, or sorry, we support the process and we support the students' learning based on previous knowledge that they have acquired, right? In order to build the knowledge that we're trying to share with them, okay? And I want you to look at the quote that I have here, okay? The quote that I have here says, "He who would learn to fly one day must first learn to stand and walk and run and climb and dance. One cannot fly into flying." That is basically the outline, or this basically sums up what scaffolding is. Okay. And teachers, before we move on, I would like to show you a video that gives us a little more information about what the CLIL methodology is about. Okay, let's watch this. And if you have any questions, please display your questions in the chat section. Let's share the video. Here we go. Let's go on to YouTube and let's watch this video for just a minute.
created using how-to.
Oh, okay. So we just saw a little video that gives us an outline of what CLIL is about. I don't know if you have any doubts or any questions about any part of the video or any expression, any idea that you saw in the video that maybe was not 100% clear that I can help you clear out. Is there any question? Maybe in the chat? Not yet? Okay, I'll give you a chance to ask any question that you might have. I'm going to go ahead and share the PPT again so we can move on to the next part. Okay, so we've seen the core features of the CLIL methodology. Now for the next part, we're going to look at scaffolding strategies. Now for this part, look, scaffolding, teachers, is an extremely important part of this methodology. And we have to make sure that we understand how to implement scaffolding and the different strategies that might be useful when we're implementing it. So I want you to look at the first one. And the first scaffolding strategy that we have here is brainstorming a topic to determine the existing level of knowledge. Now, I would like you to tell me, please, in the chat box, if you can, what does this mean to you? I know that you probably look at this and you probably understand very well what it means, but I want you to tell me in your own words, if you can, how would we do this, or how would this benefit your students? Brainstorming a topic to determine the existing level of knowledge. How does this benefit the student, or the students, sorry, plural? Or how does this support scaffolding? Why is it important? Very good. Maria Vega says, share ideas about the topic. Excellent. This gets the conversation going. It gets the juices flowing. Excellent. Very good, Miss. Right. So brainstorming a topic gets the conversation going, like Miss Maria says. It gets the ideas flowing, right? And it allows you to make an informal assessment about the amount of knowledge that the student has on the topic, or the amount of previous knowledge that the student already has on the topic that is going to be discussed, right? Okay, the next one is providing language immediately as it is needed. Okay, we have more comments. Very good. Lucia Gavilanes says, first, it's an excellent icebreaker. Okay, good. And you can introduce and clarify some ideas about the topic. Excellent, Ms. Lucia. Very good. Tatiana Merchan says they connect previous knowledge with a new topic. Very good, Miss. Now, let's look at the second one, providing language immediately as needed. Why is it important in the scaffolding process? And this typically goes on in the warm-up. But why is it important during my warm-up or during my scaffolding process to provide language immediately as it is needed? What happens to the students in the foreign language or the second language class sometimes? Sometimes when they're trying to express an idea, they can correct mistakes. Very good. Excellent. We can correct mistakes in real time. And sometimes they get stuck and they need our help. So we have two options. We can provide the language immediately as it is needed, or we can help that student infer that, or we can help them arrive at that expression by helping them to think about the concept that they're trying to express first, and then we can provide the language that is needed. Okay, let's look at number 3, placing notes in the margin of handouts. Now, why would that help me? By placing notes, like little notes, like little post-its in the margins of a handout. Like if I'm doing a handout for my warm-up activity, maybe, and I place a little note in the margin of a handout for a specific student, why would that help me? It says, Mr. David Chamba says they tend to make grammar mistakes. Okay, I think this probably refers to the second one, providing language immediately as needed. Very good, Mr. Of course, that's why we need to provide language immediately as needed in this scaffolding stage. But placing notes in the margins of handouts, why is it important? I don't know if anyone can tell me. Why would that matter? No answers yet. Well, that would matter because there are in every class, there's always certain types of students, or there's always specific students that need more specific or additional instructions regarding the activities that we're going to do. So if we're going to use a handout to provide specific notes with specific instructions, this could help me in the process if that student needs that extra help. Okay, now let's look at the next one. The next one is shortening sentences. Why is shortening sentences good in this process? What happens when I have sentences or I have examples that are too complex? What could happen to with my students? What is something common that could happen if I'm not careful with the examples that I give, if I allow the examples to be too complex? Mr. Anderson says the students could not understand the content. Yes, that is possible. That's why we have to review the contents of our classes, and I'm sure most of us do, or all of us do. We review the contents beforehand so that we make sure that the examples are at the same, not at the same level as the student, but in the zone of proximal development. What is that zone of proximal development? That zone of proximal development is where the activities, the exercises, and the examples are not too easy, they're not too difficult, but they're just at that level that is precisely above what the student knows already, so that we're able to push them further. Okay. Mr. David says, to make it simpler for the student to understand it. Very good, Mr. Excellent. All right, the next one is, the next example of scaffolding strategies is using pictures and realia. And I would like you to tell me, for those of you, sometimes this is not common for every EFL or ESL teacher, but for those of you who have heard about realia or have used realia before or know the term, if you can tell me what that is. Let me know in the comments section if you know what realia is. Well, we know what using picture is like, and how it would help scaffolding, right? Because a visual aid is always good to help students understand concepts, right? Mr. David Shamba says, showing something that represents a topic. Very good. Yes. Yes. Ms. Maria Vega says, some students learn by visual. Yeah, very good. Some students have, right. We have to understand that we have mixed learning styles. We always have mixed classrooms, or classrooms with mixed learners, or mixed styles of learning. So we have visual learners, kinesthetic, we have auditory learners. Ms. Maria Vega says, different intelligence to learn any class. Very good. Now, realia refers to real objects. I'm going to show you a real object that I have here. Now, this is an example of realia. Why? I'm showing you this, but I'm not telling you what this is. I'm going to ask you, what is this? If you don't know the name of this in English, you might tell me in Spanish. Well, it's a vaso, teacher. Okay, but I'll tell you, but you might tell me in Spanish, but since this is an EFL or ESL class, I'm going to show it to you, right? And I'm going to tell you, this is a cup. You might not know the word cup, but I tell you, this is a cup, and you repeat, okay, this is a cup, right? That's an example of realia. Ms. Maria Vega says, different intelligence to learn any class. For example, if we go to the farm, we check, look, and plant the plants. Very good. Very good. All right, let's see. Let's look at another comment from Ms. Luli. The use of pictures and realia in the CLIL classroom is a must. Realia are real objects to work with. Thank you, Ms. Luli. Thank you so much. That's good. That's good. All right. So what we're going to do, teachers, is we're going to go into the next one so we can have a look at the next section. Okay, here we go. All right. So in this section, we're going to have a look at how we can extend the CLIL. Sorry, how we can extend CLIL outside of the classroom. Or actually, this is also going to show us how we can implement it in the classroom. So one of the best options that we have in implementing CLIL is this one, PBL, project-based learning or projects. Okay, another option would be science fairs and art exhibitions. Now I want you to, in this point, I would like you to tell me, we do this in Ecuador, don't we? We do we do science fairs and art exhibitions, but we typically have one word that we use when we do these events in the schools. There's one word in Spanish that we use. I'm trying to put it in context for our Ecuadorian teachers so they understand better what we're talking about. What is it that we typically do when we want to display students' work to the outside, outside of our classrooms? Fiestas patronales, Mr. David Chambas es Casa Abierta. Very good. Miss Lucia is correct. Casa Abierta. We occasionally do English open house. We do English open houses. Very good. Or we might do a music open house or an art open house, right? We typically name it an open house, but it could be a science fair. It could be an art exhibition. It could be a music fair and stuff like that, right? Oh, okay, another example in which we could implement, another example that we can use to implement CLIL in the EFL classroom is by using resources or activities that have to do with music. And also the last one, show and tell. I want you to tell me in the comments, in the Zoom, in the chat box or the chat section, what is show and tell, or how can we, how would this help us implement CLIL in the EFL classroom? Well, in a show and tell, the students typically have to bring a personal object. And with this personal object, they typically have to describe the personal object if they're in a basic level of proficiency. But if they're in a higher level of proficiency, like a high school student, they bring the personal object and they talk about that object and how they obtained it and what it means to them, right? Mr. David Chamba says, making real examples in real context, maybe. Yes. Well, show and tell is usually like a presentation, right? Like a presentation of personal objects, and they talk about them. So for example, if we're doing a show and tell with elementary school kids, and if they're EFL or ESL students, they will typically describe the object depending on their level of proficiency. If they have a higher proficiency, meaning if they typically get like 10 hours of English a week, or 10 or 12, which is ESL technically, then they would talk about how they got the object, how it came to their lives and what makes it special for them. Okay, now let's move on. I'm going to give you an example of how, I'm going to show you an example of how to implement project-based learning with CLIL, or how to implement CLIL with a project-based learning activity. Here we go. Let's move on. Okay, so let's talk about project-based learning. And in project-based learning, what happens in project-based learning at the beginning? Usually when we're trying to implement project-based learning, we have to provide the students with a general question to answer, a concrete problem to solve, or an in-depth issue to explore. So what does this tell us about project-based learning? What is typically the orientation or the objective of project-based learning? I don't know if you can let me know. You probably have more experience than I do in this matter, but if you have suggestions, please. I have a few ideas that I can tell you, but I would like to hear from you, please. Okay, so the usually one of the objectives of project-based learning is to make sure that we provide the students with a topic or with an objective that is based in the real world or that can be implemented in the real world, right? Okay, now let's move on and let's see an example of, sorry to interrupt, but it's 5 o'clock. Time to share the form. Okay. Okay, so we're going to share the attendance sheet right now. We're going to share we're going to share a link with you guys in order to allow you to record your attendance. We're going to share it through the chat in Zoom, and we're also going to share it through YouTube Live. I don't know if for some of you who are watching us through that link, through that channel, we're going to be sharing it. Okay. Thank you so much, Miss Luli Alaba. Okay, so I'm going to allow you guys a few minutes to complete the registration of your attendance in our link. Here we go, Mr. Okay, we just have the link right now. It was just shared in our chat. Please click on that link on that form link and complete your registration if you can. Okay, and our team is going to share it in the live chat as well via YouTube. Okay, now let's move on. So I'm going to give you a quick example of a project that we implemented in one of our schools. Now look, the main question for this project was, how can our school serve healthier school lunches? I would like you to tell me in which part of this question, in which word is CLIL involved, or what makes this question part of the CLIL methodology? What makes it CLIL? Remember about the interdisciplinary aspect of CLIL? So what makes it CLIL? This is from an EFL classroom. So, but what makes it a CLIL question, or how is this project related to CLIL? Please let me know in the chat box if you can. It says Miss Tatiana Merchan. Very good, Miss Tatiana. Science and English are subjects connected here. Very good. Exactly, because of the word healthier, right? The word healthier, or the word healthy connects the EFL classroom or our EFL project with science. It connects our class to the field of nutrition and to science. Excellent, Miss. Very good. So here is an example of the 3 steps we took. Look at the first step. The first step is creation of a school garden, right? The next step that we took in this project is research health concerns related to specific food items served in the cafeteria. And the last step that we took with our students was design a system for students to help cooking using only healthy ingredients. Okay. Now, if you ever done a PBL in your classroom or in your school, I would like you to tell me an example of a different PBL that maybe you have implemented. This is an example of a PBL that works well with the CLIL methodology. Okay, I'm going to give you some time, and if you have an example that you want to share with us, please share it in the chat. Okay, so this example that we gave is a clear example of how we can implement project-based learning with content and language integrated learning into the EFL or ESL classroom. Okay. Now, regarding project-based learning, what we have to keep in mind is we always have to keep in mind that there has to be a driving question or a challenge, right? We need to instill, or we need to motivate our students for to have a need, or sorry, we need to build in them a need to know. Okay, there needs to be inquiry and innovation with a project-based learning. We need to work on 21st century skills. Okay, the students need to have voice and choice in project-based learning. We need to have a feedback and revision stage, and the project or the results from the project need to be publicly presented. Okay. Now,
You
teachers,
remember what
I'm
it
going
was
to
like
show
in
you
school.
a short
It was
video a short video that has to do with project-based learning, and this is the last part of the CLIL workshop, or sorry, the CLIL webinar that we're going to review for today. Thank you so much.
boring. You sat in class, memorized as much as you could, and tried to pass a test at the end. But is that good enough? These days, school
Check your microphone, sir.
can be more interesting and effective by focusing students on work that matters. This is project-based learning explained. Most adults live in a world of projects. Whether it's a job assignment, home improvement, or planning a wedding, we need to actively solve problems. But unfortunately, schoolwork looks more like this than this. Let's take a look at this project-based world. Meet Claire. She was recently presented with a challenge. Her company, Super Suds, makes soap, and it was up to her to find the most earth-friendly way to produce it in the future. Her boss gave her a budget and a few requirements, and it was up to her to come up with a solution. She organized and managed a team who researched the options and created materials summarizing the issues. Claire's team asked for feedback and presented their findings to the boss. Claire came out of the project looking like a rock star, and she learned a lot about green products. If you look closely, Claire's success involved critical thinking, collaboration, and communication, things that aren't often taught in traditional classrooms. The world needs more Claires, so how do we get them? The answer is project-based learning, or PBL. By focusing students on a project, teachers put them on a path that deepens their knowledge and builds skills they'll need in the future. Here's what I mean. Mr. Simmons has always been a good science teacher, and his students do well on Friday's tests. Unfortunately, what they learned was gone by Saturday morning. That wasn't good enough for him. Soon he learned about project-based learning and decided to give it a shot. Mr. Simmons got the idea for his first project on microorganisms when nearly half of his students were suddenly absent with the flu. He asked his students why they thought so many of their classmates got sick at the same time. That lively discussion produced a lot of good questions and a list of things the kids wanted to know. Mr. Simmons then announced their project was to help elementary school kids understand how can we not get sick. After dividing the class into teams, he got them started on the project. It was up to the students to ask questions, research, collaborate, give each other feedback, and figure out the best ways to make their points clear to children. One team chose to make an educational video on the connection between hand washing and avoiding the flu. Another chose to create posters to show how viruses spread. The project teams showed off their final work to an enthusiastic audience of parents and their children at a nearby elementary school. Sitting in the front row was our good friend and local rock star Claire, who saw a bit of herself in the students. It was clear that the project was a success for the students, the audience, and Mr. Simmons. His students practiced critical thinking, collaboration, and communication. The project wasn't about memorization, but learning in depth about viruses and how to prevent spreading disease, a lesson they will never forget. At the end of the presentation, Claire introduced herself to the students and told them that they were rock stars and that the world needs more people who can think like them.
Sorry. Okay, teachers. Sorry about that. So we just saw a video, and this video that we just saw gave us a good example of, or gave us clear indications on what PBL should look like. Now, I'm going to talk to you as a final note about the pillars or the core features of PBL. So the first thing that we should take into account is that the content should be significant to our students, right? There needs to be a driving question. Our students need to have a voice and a choice, like I mentioned before. We need to make sure that we work on the 21st century skills. And in this point, I would like to make, I would like to emphasize this point because we need to make sure that our students are developing their 21st century skills. These are skills that a 21st century citizen should be developing in their formative years. For example, they should be developing or working on collaboration, communication, to enrich their knowledge of technology, their presentation skills, critical thinking, knowledge management, and intelligent listening. Okay. Another pillar of PBL is inquiry innovation, feedback and revision, and public interest, and making sure to present a publicly presented product, right? And it needs to be an interesting product as well. Okay, so I would like to thank you very much for your attention today. This is all from my part. I understand that it is probably already 15 minutes past 5. I really thank you for your attendance and your patience. And I hope you have a wonderful weekend. And I hope this webinar has been as useful as possible. Thank you so much.
Thank you all for your attendance. It was a pleasure to have you here. Please don't forget to fill in the attendance form. We sent you the links. through the YouTube Live and also through this chat. Thank you.